I don't know, Queen of Digital Shelf. I appreciate the title. I don't know, but I love it. It's
Oh,
funny.
you sure are.
I used to say that I started in e-commerce in the time where I had to knock on people's doors and be like, "Hey, please listen to me. This is really important." Dogs wake up every day and it's a new day. No matter what happened the day before, they're super happy.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to New Brew, where conversations start with a curiosity and ends with a fresh perspective, inspiring everyone looking to start, refresh, or reset their career paths. I'm Swagat Choudhury, and each episode, I'll be talking to people who chose the path less traveled to build a fulfilling career and life. Today, with us, we have popularly whom we know as the Queen of Digital Shelf. She started a career like many of us, but took the bold move to enter and become an expert in the world of digital commerce. Please welcome our guest today, Executive Director of Digital Shelf Institute, Lauren Livak Gilbert. Welcome, Lauren.
Thanks so much for having me, Swagat. And I feel like, I don't know, Queen of Digital Shelf. I appreciate the title. I don't know, but I love it. It's
Oh,
funny.
you sure are, Lauren.
Thank you.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. So, Lauren, let's start with talking us through about your career, especially the bold changes or moves that you made in your career.
Yeah, and I love this topic and I love that you're focused on it because I'm very passionate about non-traditional career paths. And I think there's a lot more of them out there than we realize, and I definitely have a very non-traditional career path. So, if I think back like all the way to college, I was a dance and journalism major, so that definitely didn't pan out exactly to what I do today, but I was also a tour guide in college and I worked in undergraduate admissions. And my first job out of college was working for Rutgers University. I'm from New Jersey. If anybody knows me, they know that I have a lot of Jersey pride. And I worked in undergraduate admissions as a college admission counselor. So that was my first career in higher education. And then from there, I started working at Johnson and Johnson. I had a couple of different roles there, but that's how I got introduced to e-commerce and to the digital shelf and kind of fell in love with the space. And then from J&J, I started working at Salsify. Actually did a big move from New Jersey to Boston 2 weeks before the world shut down for COVID. So that was a very interesting time. And then started working. Salsify created the Digital Shelf Institute, and I've been working with the Digital Shelf Institute for almost 5 years now. So from higher ed to corporate America to tech to community building, the last bit of my career really all around e-commerce.
Wow, that's a lot from dance, tour guide, admission, and you did a bit of design in J&J, and finally you landed up. And yeah, we'll probably talk about COVID, what it had to impact maybe later, or maybe, we don't want to talk about it
It
as well.
was a
Yeah,
wild time, Swagat, a wild time.
I know. I think a lot of people took a lot of decisions that time, bold decisions, which paid them off as well, right?
Yeah, and I mean,
Um,
I think I made my big, bold decision right before COVID. So moving from New Jersey to Boston to work here, and I moved in January of 2020. So nobody really knew what was happening yet. It was like very, very early on, and I had 2 months in the office before we went fully remote. And so that was my big, bold move, and I was super excited about it, and it definitely paid off and worked out, but at the time, it was really scary to then have that happen and be like, "Oh, wow, I don't know anyone here. I'm in a very small apartment. All of my family's in a different state." So, it was a learning experience, let's say.
yeah, and it's really great. And so yeah, I mean, I guess 2020 is when you joined Salsify to set
Yes.
up Digital Shelf Institute. A lot of us think about this. How do we have our secured CPG jobs, and then figure out that how do we take that move and move ahead. And let's face it, 2020, we all have been, for people, all of us who've been in this industry, digital shelf decom did not get as much of love as well, right? So
No, not at
mm,
all. I used to say that I started in e-commerce in the time where I had to knock on people's doors and be like, "Hey, please listen to me. This is really important." And then COVID changed that for sure, right? Like it definitely made e-commerce and the digital shelf more front focus, which is amazing, and I'm so happy for that. But like, I started in this industry where I'm like, "Hey, I'm the e-commerce person. Please, like, have a conversation with me. I promise it will be worth your while."
We all have done that.
Yes.
But talk us through a little about, from the CPG industry to saying goodbye to it and, landing up on a totally new era. As we said, not many people cared about digital shelf at that time. Uh, but, talk us a little about that. How do you take that move?
Yeah, it was definitely a big change. And I think it's really powerful to have experience in different industries, right? Because you can carry all of those learnings throughout. So going from CPG to tech, I mean, I think my first biggest challenge was the language. I mean, every organization has a lot of acronyms, but I feel like tech specifically and just technology companies have a lot of different acronyms. They also look at their finances a little bit differently and they talk about things differently. And so that was a really big change for me. A very small thing, but something I think people can relate to. I also went from PC to Mac. That was like a big learning experience. So I had to kind of deal with that. But I was able to really kind of take a lot of the learnings from the CPG side and understanding like how brands talk, like how we worked through problems, how we planned products, and really kind of bring that to the tech side of things. While I also had to learn the technology side. And then moving into the Digital Shelf Institute role, it was a natural fit because I was on the brand side. So I understand a lot of what brands are going through because I also had to go through it myself. And it's a very unique seat, as you know, Swagat, because you are on the brand side, to sit on a brand and to talk about new product innovation and understand sometimes how long it takes to do things and kind of get things adopted or go through change. And so it was definitely a challenge in the beginning, but what I always kind of relied on was my understanding of the brand, my understanding of the industry, and that really kind of helped carry me through. And for anybody who's switching careers or kind of making a big move, I also just encourage you to give yourself a lot of grace. I'm someone who wishes that they could just like jump right in and be an expert right away, but it does take time and there's like a learning period involved. And so just understand that there will be that, especially if you're switching industries.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, of course, if you are switching, doing something new, yeah, you need to be kind to yourself, give
Yes.
give that much time, and you need to have an environment where people are kind to you as well, for you to pick up that
Yes.
as well. And
100%. And it takes time. Like I think we all just want to be like, okay, it's only going to take us X amount of time and then we're going to figure it out. But like, it takes a lot of time to absorb information and to truly understand it, especially in a world that we live in now where there's just so much information. Figuring out the right information and what's important and valuable matters.
yeah, and it's interesting, as we are talking about, you've done so many different career change. One way of looking is pivot, but I think I would love to know that do you see these as pivots or you see these as natural progression in our career?
I don't know if I would necessarily see them all as pivots. I think the biggest pivot was going from higher education to corporate America. And then after that, I kind of see it as progress. To me, I kind of think of it as like a jungle gym versus a ladder. So a lot of people talk about your career as a ladder, right? Like it's linear. Like you go up each rung and you raise different levels and pay and all of that. But I look at it more as like a jungle gym, like those circular ones where you can like climb
Yeah.
up and go sideways. And to me, I think as long as your values are aligned with your role and you feel like you're learning and you're growing and obviously there's a financial aspect and how that works for you and your family. Like to me, that's what success looks like. I got advice early on in my career and it has stuck with me throughout my entire career. And someone once told me, they're like, sometimes you can go fast and sometimes you can go slow in different parts of your life, and that's okay. And that really struck me because sometimes in your personal life, right, there might be more going on. So you want to take it a little bit slower professionally. And then maybe sometimes professionally, you're like ready to go and like you want to take on that meaty, challenging role because you don't have other things going on. And that's okay. But I really look at it as an ebb and flow and more of like a jungle gym where maybe I'm climbing diagonally or sideways. But as long as it's fulfilling and I feel like I'm learning and growing, then it's success to me.
Yeah, I think it's great, as you said. And I think the next question also flows into it is that, do you think it's important to know where you're heading in your career all the time? But as you mentioned, you might go diagonally as well.
Yeah,
Or
I mean, I think it's a
sometimes just go with the flow, right?
yeah, it's a popular question where people are like, "Where do you see yourself in like 5 or 10 years?" And if I'm being honest, I kind of struggle with that question because if you asked me that 5 years ago, I would not have said here, like in this seat doing this thing, especially when you're thinking about switching from higher ed to corporate America. So I I know I already said this, but I more focus on kind of like values and like more growth goals within like your current time frame and maybe the next year. And I'm just very much a person who like if it feels right, then it is right and it's aligned kind of with my values. So I don't see it as like, hey, here's the next 10 years of my life. They're like perfectly planned. Here's what I want to do and here's what I want to achieve. I envy people who have that. I don't have something like that. I really just try to focus on it. Where I am today, is it meeting my priorities, my goals? Am I fulfilled professionally? Is it working with my personal life? And then for me, that's like a good check box. And then I have goals that I want to achieve overall. And hopefully I'll be able to kind of jump into roles or in my current role, fulfill those things in the future. But I attach them less to a very static like title or job or company and more say like these are my values and goals and let's figure out how we kind of get there. So I guess it's a little bit of a mix of go with the flow and have some like higher level goals and priorities.
Yeah, and I think that's a reality as well. And the world is changing quite fast. So you
Yes.
cannot have those plans next 5 years, 10 years ladder and draw it on a paper. You probably have to keep rubbing it. It's good to have a plan, but at
Yeah.
the same time, do it on a whiteboard so that you can keep rubbing and, reshaping that of
But I
what
think that's a great point, Swagat, because I think traditional like if I think back maybe 10 or 20 years, I think it may have been way easier to have like a very clear linear path, especially in careers like for example, my husband is in science, right? It's like a very clear what like your career path is in science. But we work in an industry where you can go in a lot of different directions, which is amazing, but also is challenging because there is not necessarily a clear cut path. And because of the changes in our industry and in the wake of I think a lot of things are going to change in the next 2, 5, 10 years. And so it's not as linear. And that can be challenging and confusing because it's not kind of a 1, 2, 3 step type of thing. But that's why I try to anchor on professional, personal values and goals. And that helps guide you versus being like, hey, I need to achieve this specific job with this specific title in this way.
Yeah, and that's a great point. And of course, we cannot have any conversation these days without the two words AI.
I
That's
know.
our reality. I think, yeah, we live in a very challenging and exciting times, as we'll agree, professionally, personally, everywhere. But I think one question is that would you say AI is an opportunity, especially when you're starting, or you want to refresh what you do, or you want to reset your career, or what you do in life as well?
I think it's a huge opportunity. I mean, I can't deny that it is going to fundamentally change a lot of things, but I am more of a realist. And so if anybody listens to me or follows my content, I try to go like away from the hype. Like, I don't think it's going to take away all of our jobs and like there's no need for humans. Like, I don't believe that at all. I really believe that it's going to supercharge us today. And this is the dumbest it will ever be, right? So, like, it's only going to get better and it's going to get easier to use and there will be more use cases for it. So I see it as a huge opportunity. I mean, personally, it's definitely helped from an efficiency standpoint. I think that's one of the biggest things that it helps with, but what I caution in terms of the opportunity with AI and what I don't think people are necessarily talking about is you can gain a lot using AI, but you can also lose a lot using AI. And I think we need to talk about that balance. I was having a conversation yesterday with someone and they were saying that they use an AI transcriber for a lot of their meetings now and they don't take notes. But they're finding that they're not retaining information and they're not remembering it as well because they're not writing it down. And I can relate to that because I'm someone who needs to write things down. But that's one of those things where it's like, okay, You need to have a balance between what AI is helping you with and what you're still doing, because at the end of the day, we still need to critically think, come up with
Yeah.
ideas, be creative, connect dots, and all of that requires understanding, retaining, comprehension, critical thinking. So, it's a huge opportunity if you use it correctly, but humans are still the most important piece. Like, to me, people
Agree.
matter and empathy matters and relationship and community matters. But AI is just going to help free up a lot of the stuff that we didn't like doing anyway so that we can do more of the stuff that we enjoy.
I totally agree. This is what's going to supercharge us.
Hmm.
And I'm exactly on the same boat. Yes, I'll use a transcription to record. But if I do not pick up a notebook and scribble with my bad handwriting, long back as a child, I was told that when you write, then you're looking at it and from your hand, it goes to your brain. But that just works, right? So, yeah,
Yeah.
today we have too much of transcription, but who's reading it?
Exactly. And
Yeah.
and I think there's a lot of conversations around AI slop and AI content, and now because there's so much AI slop and AI content, AI is being trained on that, and so therefore it's just kind of circulating the same information and ideas. I mean, I think a differentiating factor is going to be creativity and
Yeah.
critical thinking and how you can use your knowledge and your expertise and everything that you have spent time learning to be able to differentiate yourself. And yes, AI can help you do it faster. It can help brainstorm with you. It can like get you kickstarted, but there's a lot of different ways that you also need to be in that equation. And I think, to
100%.
your point, writing is a perfect example. I've tried iPads, I've tried like all the virtual kind, and I still use a pen and
Yeah.
a notebook.
Exactly. That's so important. And to your point on refreshing as well, you know, um, supercharging. Um, you know, I remember that I had a new trainee join, and this conversation where I was saying that today probably you and me are 70% almost on the same level ground because we are, or probably you can learn faster because you don't have to unlearn. And probably the only thing I have is the experience that comes in as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's a great opportunity of wherever you are in your career and whatever you want to do at
Yeah,
the
I
moment.
think it levels the playing field for
Yeah,
sure from a learning and a knowledge perspective where like I can upskill on something, but at the same time, that expertise that you have that
yeah.
distinguishes you from someone who's just starting is so critical. So I like to use science as an example because like I said, my husband works in science and he says a lot. He's like, well, people can like understand the science by like talking with an agent or like just kind of getting information from AI, but he's like, but when they come to me and we talk about it, I'm like, well, that doesn't actually make sense because of all these other factors, right? Because you have to be able to connect the dots across the
Exactly.
entire kind of ecosystem. And I don't know if you heard, but I think it was OpenAI. So ChatGPT. I don't remember which LLM it was, but one of them solved a math problem that hadn't been solved in like hundreds of years because they used a different type of math. And
Mm,
I think that's a perfect example, right? Because if you're someone who has this level of expertise, maybe you've been in supply chain and ecom and sales and marketing, like you're going to be able to see the full picture and you can pull on knowledge from different areas. And that expertise is super valuable where you can't necessarily get that from an LLM.
yes, I totally agree on that. Yeah, let's go to the question, which I think both of us will be very excited about. Yeah. Any
Yeah.
guesses what it's about?
Is it have to do with some furry friend of mine?
Exactly. Let's talk about dogs, right? And I think we have to talk about dogs.
I am
Mm.
on board for that.
And we can talk, I guess, for hours on it. But yeah. So yeah, in recently in your Digital Shelf Institute Summit, you bought in puppies. And it's a conference. It's fun, but it's still a serious professional event. And there were puppies, and I was very envy that I could not make it just because of one that was one of the reasons for sure. But talk to us about it at, puppies in a conference, what role it had there, what role it played for people around, and also broadly, what does it mean for us in our everyday work and life?
Yeah, no, I think it's a great point. And so the Digital Shelf Summit was in oh my goodness. It was in Atlanta this year. I'm thinking about I was like it's in Orlando, but it's in Orlando next year. I was in Atlanta, and at the one of the booths we did have puppies, so you could like go in and you could pet a puppy, you could hold a puppy. And the whole point is like we're people at the end of the day, right? Like everybody loves puppies. Everybody needs a little dose of happiness. Like it's just if you have a dog, you understand. If you love dogs, you understand. I talk a lot about my dog Dewey. I know Swagat, you know about Dewey. He's a Rhodesian Ridgeback. He is the best. And dogs wake up every day and it's a new day. No
Yeah.
matter what happened the day before, they're super happy. They're wagging their tails and they're just there to be your friend and just hang out with you and have fun. And we brought them to the conference just to just bring a little joy. And I talked about Dewey in my presentation, and then Todd talked about his dog Bruce in his presentation, and we tried to kind of just have a little bit of like lightheartedness and fun as a
Yeah.
part of the conference because I mean, we spend all day on screens and talking about AI and talking about content, but it was a big reminder that we're all people and like we love animals and animals are a big part of our life and just being present with people at a conference in person is also just super important, and a big part of the Digital Shelf Summit and the Digital Shelf Institute is community. And so the more ways that we can bring people together, we can make people smile, we can make people happy, that's really kind of what we're aiming for. And so we had 5 puppies there, and it was so hilarious. One of the puppies kept escaping from the pen and running around the exhibit halls, so he had to be held at all times. So we had a mischievous puppy, and they were up for adoption, and I know that we got
Oh,
a couple of applications, but I don't know if anybody got adopted, but they were absolutely adorable. Made me miss Dewey and wish that I could bring him, but he's 110 pounds and he cannot get on a plane, so
yeah, I think yeah, one thing to learn from dogs is, anything curiosity. Like they got a
yes.
curious face all the time. They're learning, constantly looking at you. So I think that's definitely apart from the fun, I think it's also learning from them how to keep learning, how to keep observing a lot and learn a lot as well.
Yeah,
And
and they're
about
always just like I said, every day's a new day. Like they
exactly.
don't judge. You know, they're there to support. It's like unconditional love. It is the most amazing feeling. And so I think we can learn a lot from dogs. Definitely curiosity, especially in this industry. And also just like a fresh look, like trying not to be jaded by things of the past and just like come into it with like everybody has good intentions. Like we're all here together to learn and we're all trying to figure it out.
Yeah, and from your dog Dewey, I think I've learned a lot about AEO, GEO, agentic commerce from his LinkedIn presence, which he lets
Yes.
you be on as well. So yeah, thanks for that. Please thank Dewey for that.
He likes to
Um,
eat a lot of the paper that I draw on, and so he
he's
has been in a
consuming,
lot of
literally
my posts.
consuming the knowledge. So
He will literally eat anything, and so that is definitely something we're working on.
yeah, that's great. As a last question, I just wanted to get some last words of advice, especially if people are trying to find, the new brew, as I call it, which is, the new yourself of yourself. Uh, in your life and profession. So, do you have any last words on it?
Yeah, I mean, I think for anybody who's looking to switch careers or do something different, like I feel like in the past maybe it wasn't something that people do, but I think it's very normal now. Like non-traditional career paths, even breaks, like they're much more acceptable now. And if you are looking to get into a new industry or try something new, like reach out to people. I've had people reach out to me on LinkedIn, even students, and just be like, "Hey, like, can I grab 15 minutes? I just have like a couple of questions." And I'm like, "Yeah, sure, like let's chat." And I love those conversations because most of the time they just want to understand the industry and they're trying to figure it out, and then they ask for connections or people that they can talk to. And so I wouldn't be afraid to reach out. And listen, not everybody's going to answer. Like, I'll be honest with you, especially on LinkedIn because there's a lot of noise, right? But it's definitely worthwhile. Reach out to people, ask questions, try to say, like, hey, what is your job? Or like, what do you do every day? Or what are the things that you love about it? And just try to go from there. I think we're all trying to figure out what we want to be when we grow up. I always like to say that. Like, I feel like everybody thinks that everybody else has it figured out, but at the end of the day, we're all figuring it out as we go. And so ask questions, meet with people, have conversations, give yourself grace if you're learning something new, and just be curious. Like take a page from Dewey and all the dogs out there. Be curious, ask those questions, and um, just figure out
I
what works
think
for you.
it's a great word of advice. Yeah, means get on the jungle gym, go around vertical, horizontal. And I think you touched on very important thing that if the career break sounds the right thing for you, for your family, financially, pragmatically, and it's needed, there's nothing wrong in it. And you're right, going to alternate careers, being curious, yeah, you're right. Most of the people are more open than closed these days to help you out, understand. So I think that's definitely a great word of advice.
And it's your life and your career. Like I think it's hard sometimes if you're comparing to what other people are doing or figuring out if it's the right choice. And I think it's just it's your life. And if it works for you and your professional and your personal goals and your family, like then it's the right choice and you can be confident in that. And I know that's easier said than done, but I think anyone you talk to that's made a big career pivot or a big change or taken a break or just tried to figure something out. Like it's what's right for you, not for the thousands of people on LinkedIn that you might be looking at because you never really know what their story is or what they're doing.
Exactly. Well, great. Thanks, Lauren. This was a really pleasure. And, and thanks for being on my first podcast.
Of
And
course,
I
thank
couldn't
you
have
for
made
having
it better.
me.
Yeah,
It was
great.
an honor to be on your first episode. Thank you so much, Swagat.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, Lauren.